3 a.m., a single dad got the call. She won't make it. What he did next saved her. At exactly 3:00 a.m., the phone rang, and in that single moment, everything in his world began to fall apart. The sound cut through the silence like a blade. He had been asleep on the couch, still wearing yesterday's clothes, his young daughter curled beside him under a thin blanket. The room was dim, lit only by the flickering glow of the television he had forgotten to turn off. When he saw the hospital's name on the screen, his heart didn't just sink, it stopped. Before we go any further, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of love to change lives, take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Stories like this deserve to be felt, not just watched. He answered the call with trembling hands, his voice barely steady enough to say hello. On the other end, the words came fast, heavy, and unforgiving. A nurse explained that she was in critical condition. Her body was failing. They didn't think she would make it through the night. For a moment, everything went silent around him. The ticking clock, the faint hum of electricity, even his own breathing, it all faded into nothing. Only one sentence echoed in his mind again and again: she won't make it. He looked down at his daughter, sleeping peacefully, unaware of the storm that had just entered their lives. Her tiny hand rested on his arm, as if holding him in place, as if begging him not to fall apart, but he couldn't stay still. Within seconds, he was on his feet, gently lifting his daughter into his arms. There was no time to think, no time to process, only time to act. He grabbed his keys, his jacket, and rushed out into the cold night, his heart pounding louder than the engine of his car. The road to the hospital felt endless. Streetlights blurred past him like streaks of light, and every second felt like it was slipping through his fingers. His mind was filled with memories, some beautiful, some painful, all crashing into each other without mercy. She hadn't always been distant. There was a time when everything between them felt unbreakable. A time when laughter filled their home, when dreams felt possible, when love didn't feel like something fragile. But life had a way of changing things. After their daughter was born, the pressure of responsibility began to weigh heavily on both of them. Money was tight, sleep was rare, stress became constant. Slowly, without either of them noticing at first, the distance grew. He tried to hold things together, working long hours, sacrificing everything he had. But she began to drift away, lost in her own struggles, her own silent battles. Conversations turned into arguments. Arguments turned into silence. And eventually, silence turned into separation. He became a single father not by choice, but by circumstance. Raising a child alone was never easy. There were nights when his daughter cried endlessly, and he didn't know how to comfort her. Days when he skipped meals just to make sure she had enough. Moments when exhaustion hit him so hard he thought he might collapse. But he never gave up, not on her, not on himself, and not on the hope that one day things might heal. When he finally reached the hospital, his hands were shaking so badly he could barely open the door. The bright lights of the emergency ward felt harsh, almost unforgiving. Nurses moved quickly, doctors spoke in hushed urgency, and somewhere in that chaos, she was fighting for her life. He rushed to her room, his daughter still in his arms, now awake and confused by the sudden change. When he saw her lying there, pale and fragile, connected to machines that breathed for her, something inside him broke. This wasn't the woman he remembered. This was someone barely holding on. He stepped closer, his heart heavy with everything left unsaid. Regret washed over him, not just for the fights, but for the silence that followed them. For the moments he chose pride over understanding. For the times he assumed there would always be more time, but now time was running out. He gently placed his daughter beside him and reached for her hand. It was cold, lifeless in a way that terrified him. He held it tightly, as if his grip alone could keep her from slipping away, and then something changed, not around him, but within him. He realized that this wasn't just about the past. It wasn't about who was right or wrong. It wasn't about the mistakes they had made. It was about now. It was about giving everything he had in this moment. So he leaned closer, his voice soft, but filled with everything he had been holding inside for so long. He spoke from a place deeper than words, a place where love still existed despite everything that had happened. He reminded her of the life they once dreamed of the daughter who needed her, of the moments they never got to fix. And as he spoke, something incredible happened. The monitor beside her flickered. At first, it was subtle, almost unnoticeable, but then it became stronger, steadier. The nurses noticed. The doctors rushed in. The room filled with movement, with urgency, but this time it wasn't panic. It was hope. He didn't let go of her hand, not even for a second. Hours passed, each one feeling like a lifetime. His daughter fell asleep again, resting against him, as if trusting him to hold their world together. And somehow he did. By morning, the impossible had happened. She was still alive, weak, fragile, but alive. The doctors couldn't explain it. They spoke about resilience, about timing, about medical factors. But deep down, he knew it was something more. It was connection. It was love that refused to let go. The days that followed were not easy. Recovery was slow, painful, and uncertain. There were setbacks, moments of fear, times when it felt like they might lose her all over again. But he stayed every single day, not because he had to, but because he chose to. He brought their daughter to visit, filling the room with laughter and warmth. He spoke to her, even when she couldn't respond. He held her hand just like that night, reminding her that she wasn't alone. And slowly, she began to come back, not just physically but emotionally. The walls that once stood between them started to crumble. The silence that once defined their relationship was replaced with something new: understanding, forgiveness, and a quiet, powerful kind of love. Months later, when she finally walked out of that hospital, it wasn't just a recovery. It was a beginning. They didn't pretend the past didn't exist. They didn't ignore the pain they had caused each other. But they chose something different. They chose to try again, not perfectly, but honestly. He was still a single dad in many ways, still carrying responsibilities that never faded. But now he wasn't alone in the journey. And she wasn't either. Their daughter grew up seeing not just struggle, but strength. Not just brokenness, but healing. And that night, that 3 a.m. call that once felt like the end, became the moment that changed everything. If this story touched your heart even a little, take a moment to like, share, and comment. Your support helps stories like this reach more people who need hope. And before you go, leave a comment and tell us, which country are you watching from? Your voice matters more than you think. Because sometimes, the darkest moments don't break us. They remind us what we're truly capable of saving.